This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us again this week is George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals. Good to be catching up again, George. How are you, first of all?
Mark, it's nice to talk to you as well. In terms of how I am, exhausted, not much sleep over the last couple of nights, lots of hard work, but otherwise fine. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, we're going to go through and get a bit of an update. Of course, there was an RNS yesterday evening, of course, the announcement of the AGM. I think the main point to note is the seeking of this application of the preemption rights in order to be able to place more shares. And from the AGM notice, I noticed that the intended use of these preemption rights would be to pay J.R. Goddard, the contractor, in shares to settle the loan facility from yourself made last August, and any remaining shares intended to be used to bring Zulu into profitable production and general working capital. So, of course, you've got this passed now, but I guess I know there's a few concerns that people are thinking, oh, here we go again. There's more placings coming, more funding's required. When are we going to get things done? So maybe just from your point of view, first of all, could you perhaps just perhaps set some of those fears aside and give us an idea of how things are on site? Are you able to get that plant running at 24 hours, like you said last time? And what can you say to people who might be concerned about the dilution coming their way?
Okay, so Mark, let me start off by saying that if one looks at the RNS, I think that it does also say, in terms of funding for the plant operations, should that be necessary. We have not written off other means and mechanisms for dealing with this. We need to have the ability to have a fallback position. And I think that that's prudent. I've said that before. So I think that just to add that to your question, and not to leave that point out, I think the other point that I want to make is that I've set out in general terms some of the ongoing issues that are associated with the plant. But I've also made the point, and I'll make the point again, that the majority of these things are time-related, not CapEx-related. Mm-hmm. And in any event, there remain obligations, ongoing obligations, if we have to come back on them. If there are components that are not fit for purpose or whatever, the obligation still remains with the original contractor who should have produced and provided kit and equipment that was. But having said that, I think that the most important observation to make is that, generally speaking, the individual plant and equipment items that we have at Zulu are of high standard and good quality. The difficulties associated with achieving continuous operation are largely associated with the relationship between the plant components. And I've tried to indicate that. I think one of the items I referred to was movement of material from the thickener into the microflotation plant. Yeah. And the original pipework that was provided right in the beginning, which was then adapted to allow the thickener to be put in place, has now become clear to us was the wrong internal pipe dimensions. That, for example, has already been replaced. So many of these things are time-related, but they are things that we do in a systematic and step-by-step manner here at site.
Okay.
Our overriding objective with the plant is to have the plant operating on a continuous basis without interruption from various blockages or this or that or the other thing, that kind of issue. And as we get it to run continuously, which it is doing right now, as we have this discussion, we are then able to go back and ramp up the various different components of this and slowly bring this to a point where we have the correct feed, the correct tonnage, correctly sized going through the plant. Now, that process with continuous running of the plant now that we now are achieving is a major step forward in the production of spodumene.
So you say the plant is continuously running. I know last time we spoke, you wanted it to be running 24 hours. So is it the case now? Is it running 24 hours? Are you seeing SC6 product coming off the line?
Well, the plant is I can't remember the time since the last stoppage, but we finished the completion of the replacement of the particular pipeline that I've referred to in the RNS, which as I say, has now been done. That must have been latest yesterday afternoon. Plant has run continuously since then.
Okay.
Now, as we get the correct tonnage into it, spodumene is already floating, and we've already indicated this previously, that the plant has the ability and can and does produce spodumene to saleable grade. So it's a case of ramping up the tonnage going into the plant, and in that way increasing the rate of production of spodumene at grade. Now, that process is underway at the moment.
Okay. Now, you mentioned this earlier, and you mentioned it last time. It's this time. It's more of a time cost rather than a dollar cost or a capex cost that you used just a few minutes ago. Of course, time does equal money, though, doesn't it? That, if there's more time involved in something, people have to be paid. There might be delays in getting invoices out to the customer, so delays in capital coming in. But are you more saying that there's no big dollar costs left? It is more the time and the sort of general admin costs that are affecting this.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. I mean, Mark. In summary, just sort of, and this is and people can look at our overall accounts and see more or less what it costs us to maintain Zulu. But it's a fair amount of money. So time, as I've said, is money. And that's what we need to deal with. The shorter we can make that time, the less of a cost that is going to be.
Indeed. Well, of course, the question is, how long do you think it might take to get through this situation then and get into that production where you don't need to concern about the cash flow issues anymore?
Mark, the spodumene float section of this needs to run at its design capacity, which is close to 14 tons an hour. It needs to get to that, and it needs to run for probably 10 to 12 hours continuously at the correct tonnage to see the correct forecast level of spodumene production. Now, it's in a ramp at the moment. It started yesterday evening at a very low tonnage. We're working our way through, and the plant is, as I've said before, it can produce and does produce spodumene. It is floating spodumene, and we will provide a little video that shows the flotation part of this plant in operation as well.
Okay, well, that's maybe part two from what went out earlier in the week, I think. That was a nice video you did there, and I think shareholders appreciated that, so we can look forward to seeing that. Maybe part three would be bikes rolling off the line, George. I'm sure you want to get that one at some point.
I think there are going to be quite a number of parts to it. I thought it was quite a good idea. I mean, I intend going back into the pit on the mining side of this thing and showing where this is advanced to and how we are dealing with the ore body within the pit. I intend showing the actual bagging plant and the actual filter presses with the material coming out and going through the bagging plant into the bags. So I intend doing a video of that as well. And then the final one is to get out into our EPO, just to give people an idea of the extensive other operations that are out there. which I referred to in the RNS. And frankly, I think that mention, whilst there's no, and I've made the point, there's no definitive determined resource size or anything like that, that ore is some of the highest grade spodumene ore that I think we've seen. It really is top class ore. It is free of deleterious material. And to be frank, at sort of 35, 38%, whatever it is, spodumene, in theory, 2 tons of that ore equals 1 ton of SC6. I mean, it's a crazy number, that. But that's without allowing for losses, recovery issues, etc., etc., etc. But, it gives an idea of the richness of some of the ore that is around here.
Indeed. Okay. And I mean, you mentioned, well, we spoke last week, and of course, Zulu is now the Zulu team are fully in control of the plant here. And you mentioned earlier about one of the, I think it was the pipe, and I think that's already been corrected. You said that's now been remediated. So there's maybe 3 or 4 points from that AGM notice there that really are sort of smaller issues, as you say, the between each component rather than components themselves, which seem to be, fairly easily fixable. I think one of the bigger concerns is about the sorters. I think there's general concern that there is actually perhaps a fundamental problem with those sorters. So what's going on with them? Can you speak about, we talked about no big capital costs being required here, so I guess you don't have to replace them. Obviously, Anzaplan are coming on site as well. You've got OEMs coming on site to look at the sorters, Senet Engineering to do that full review. But just on the sorters, are they actually fit for purpose, do you think?
Mark, the Tomra XRT sorters as a sorter in an environment where you can sort on atomic density, which is it's designed to do. It's an exceptional piece of machinery. It's used all over the world. The issue at Zulu is that XRT is not necessarily the best mechanism for trying to remove all the waste that is associated with the pegmatites. It removes some, but is not removing all of it. A final determination on those is to come. They are running at the moment and removing part of the waste. But the more important fundamental thing for the moment is that the way we are mining and the ore that we are providing to the plant is not dependent on the performance of that sorter at all. But that's because of what we're doing, taking ore elsewhere, being very careful of our mining, and doing a lot of hand sorting on the ROM pad. We have teams of people that inspect whatever it is that's going to go into the plant. So we've taken extraordinary steps to deal with it, so that we can deal with. I think that in terms of a final determination, that's going to have to wait until I get the final test work results back.
Okay.
But it's clear and accepted by all at this stage that it does not remove all the waste that it was intended to do.
Right. Okay. So you wait for test work, also the report from Senet, presumably that will help you on that. But you did mention that the OEM would have to remediate that because that was part of the plant design. If there's a problem that needs replacing.
As far as we're concerned, that is exactly the situation.
Right.
I have not yet, I don't want to get too involved in that one at the moment because that is something that we will deal with one way or another.
Right. Okay. So
let me make the comment in terms of the UV sorters. The manufacturer of the technology has expressed a very strong desire to continue to develop and work with those sorters and to remedy whatever engineering issues are associated with it, and to incorporate into it later or latest further advances. Now, I've heard and I've had the discussion with them. I think they're a substantial and credible entity, and I believe that they will go through with what they've said they want to do. and I would expect them to come to site and to implement that.
Okay. Is this also why you've gone into the other area to extract ore now into the EPO, because you want to get the cleaner material up to the ROM pad? Is that fitting into this picture here?
Mark, that was fortuitous. I'm being very frank about it. That's not something that we realized initially that we had.
Okay.
Had we realized that earlier, had we been conscious of that earlier, we would have done something earlier about it.
Right.
That ore is contained in one of the claim areas that we have where we have tied up part of the original EPO. So it's coming from an area within our EPO, but where we have registered a mining claim as well.
Okay. So when it comes to the sorters, then that's to be decided effectively. They might need tweaking, they might need fully replacing, but in theory at the moment, you could basically do without them. Is that correct? Because you're hand sorting, and I think the AGM notice actually said you're producing saleable content. That's the main thing, isn't it? That's the end result that you ultimately want.
Yeah. Look, I don't think we must lose sight of the fact that the original intention, as set out by the original suppliers of this, was that the ore sorters should also be able to upgrade the spodumene content of the ore body. And in so doing, you're providing a richer feed to your mill and to your flotation circuit, which in turn should give you a better efficiencies and better returns. So whilst we're able to operate, we aren't achieving, or with the sorters as they are, we aren't able to achieve that objective. But that objective will be supplemented and achievable thanks to the other ore source that we have.
No.
The issue being that I don't know how long that ore source will hold for. But for the moment it's there, and for the next couple of months, I think we can probably rely on that as well as operations from our own orbit.
Right. Okay. So for the next couple of months. So that does beg the question then, are you still on track to make a shipment this month, i.e. March, as you said last time? How are we looking with regard to that? Can you tell me now how many bags are perhaps sitting there waiting to be loaded?
Can I try and break that question into a couple of components? And if I were asked, will we be in a position by the end of March to notify our offtake partner of a quantity that is at site that could be shipped, I remain hopeful that will be the case. So if I could break the question down to that extent, and that's the best of the answer I can give you right now.
Right.
I need, in terms of anything further on that I believe should go out in an RNS at a later stage.
Okay. Could you give even a percentage of how you're feeling, about scale of 1 to 10, or?
Mark, I'd rather not right now.
Right.
As I said to you a little earlier, we really are getting this plant to operate on a continuous basis right now, and are busy ramping this thing up. So it's a prediction I really don't want to make right now.
Okay.
I really don't.
Probably good not to make predictions.
I just don't want to go there, if you don't mind, for the moment.
No, that's okay.
But I will report my RNS as soon as I can.
Okay. I think if you could get a shipment away before that AGM, that would really encourage investors to support the company. That's what I was picking up. So that's the 8th of April, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. You say it's the sort of the bits in between the different components, George. I mean, could you give an example? You mentioned piping there from the thickener, but what are we talking here? If you try and paint the picture so people can understand these kind of little remedial works that they're doing.
Sure, Mark. Well, I mean, let's go back to this piping from the thickener to the microflotation section. And let me say that for a variety of reasons that should have been apparent in the original design, the internal diameter of the pipe originally provided to move material to the microflotation plant was of a diameter that did not necessarily maintain the correct flow rates and the correct speed to move a slurry, which is like a suspended mud almost, down this pipeline without allowing any of the solid components to settle. If the solid components settle, it blocks the pipeline. So you have to keep a certain velocity within the pipeline. Now, this was remedied very, very simply, actually, and in a very short period of time when the decision was made and when it was recognized, by changing the internal diameter of the pipeline and simply making it a smaller diameter. The same was therefore forcing the same amount of material through a smaller internal diameter pipe and therefore having a higher velocity. So once everything was planned out, the actual change was done with material on site and in about an hour and a half, and it was done. And then we, since then, have run in a very stable way, ex the thickener.
Right. Okay. And other problems that are going to be similarly sorted in theory can be done on site with skills and material on site.
Yeah. In essence, yes.
Okay.
A lot of them, that's exactly what applies.
Do you know, George, if the SC6 has the ultra low iron content that, of course, we all want to see?
Well, we have no reason to believe that the iron content will not be ultra low. There is effectively within this squee dominant deposit, there is no, within the squee itself, there is no significant iron at all. And all our test work continues to support that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's really where it is.
Okay.
If that changes, I have to advise. But at the moment, we have no anticipation that that's going to change.
Do you get official tests at some point to see the quality of or whether it's going to hit that SC7 grade, technical grade?
Yeah, look, in our lab at site, we can do that all day long. There's absolutely no problem. In the plant, it's a little bit of a compromise that we need to work our way through as to whether we want to try and push for that very high technical grade or simply push for a 6%, a 5.5 to 6.2% Li2O in spodumene and have a larger quantity and possibly a little bit of a better recovery at that lower percentage. It really is a financial offset exercise, and we're very conscious of that. That's one of the things that we are looking at and playing with at the moment.
Okay. And it means you have to get an official test at some point to satisfy the market rather than from the old site lab.
Yes, absolutely. The same applies to anything that is going to be shipped.
Shipped. Yeah.
In regard to shipping, I have asked our offtake partner to please let me know what arrangements they want in terms of confirming our analysis at site.
Okay.
I've suggested maybe they should send me a representative to be embedded at site at the moment to deal with the product at site.
Okay. Okay.
The other reason for wanting to go down that route is I feel that the quicker we're able to demonstrate that what we have is at spec and effectively pass ownership. And if we can pass ownership at mine gate, that has the potential, with the assistance of our offtake partner, to perhaps ease some of the cash flow issues.
Right. Yes, indeed. So you might be looking to alter the terms a little bit there, even temporarily.
Yes, one could. Yes, I suppose so. I'm really just trying to accelerate access to some of the cash that we would expect to generate.
Yeah.
So that's really all. Try and ease our own cash flow issues if we can.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a chance of doing so. I mean, the other issue that comes from that is that we do have a good indication that at a point in time when we have product that is committed and that is effectively going to be sold, that is a relatively easy financing issue from some of the local Zimbabwean banks.
Okay.
So there are two components and reasons for that.
Okay. Now, last time we spoke about Senet engineering. Sorry, George. No.
No, I was going to say, let me just make the point that those are all future issues. They are what we are targeting and where we want to go. But they are future events. I can only confirm a future event when the future arrives, and that is what it is.
Yeah, indeed. Well, when it comes to the engineering company that are there, Senet Engineering, you want a report. They want to generate a report. What is the end result that you want to get from contracting them? What will this report really help you? Will you actually engage their expertise as well?
I don't know. It depends on what comes out in the report. But I do want an independent review of the plant. I mean, effectively, an audit of what is here.
An audit of what is there.
I want somebody to look at what was agreed to be supplied, the context of this, that, and everything else, and what actually is here. And I want to understand where issues may be. There may be some that we haven't identified yet. I hope there aren't, and I don't think there are. But I want somebody to go through it independently and come back and talk to me about it.
Okay.
From maybe we may have to engage them to do. I'm not quite sure what.
Right. Okay. So they might suggest things that you might then have to engage them for. Okay. And in terms of funding that, George, I mean, that's probably going to come from the preemption rights and the placing, perhaps.
Well, Mark, it depends on what it is. I don't know what it is. Their cost to come and do the review and so on is not a huge. It's not a big amount of money. I think the other thing that we must bear in mind is that at the moment, when we crush the ore that is to go to the plant, we are setting aside a fines fraction, which is, at the moment, it looks to be 20 to 25% of the ore that we take out of the pit. Now, that's not being processed. And that size fraction is also rich in spodumene, and it is carrying tantalum. And at a point in time, we need to process that material. Yeah. So between the ANZA plan work and other work that is ongoing, we are looking at how best to process that material.
Okay. So, and you're doing that with ANZA plan and other OEMs that are on site?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We are looking very, very carefully at what we can do with this and how efficiently we can. Bearing in mind, it's already mined, it's already partially crushed, it's sitting in a stockpile for nothing, and potentially is a significant additional revenue stream. So we are looking very carefully at that.
Okay. And what OEMs are on site, George? You've got ANZA plan, you've got Senet there. Any other names that people might be familiar with?
Well, the others who have been on site this week are those that have provided the hydrosizers. It's a company called Davitas, who do that, and the mill manufacturer. Mill manufacturer has actually done, as far as I'm concerned, they've provided an exceptionally high grade and good quality mill. Yeah.
So they aren't yet. They're on site looking after their elements of what they've supplied there. Okay.
They were on site up until yesterday. They have left site now. They spent time with us on the management of material in and out of the mill, on discussing with us how best the mill should have been optimized. I'm careful with that wording because their original recommendations were not followed. We were not aware of them until they came to site. But nevertheless, they have given us some significant guidelines and help, and we're very much appreciative of it. And they've offered to continue.
Okay.
So I think that we've got some pretty good OEMs. The pump manufacturers are on site, and I noticed that the crusher provider, Sandvik, is on the site as well. So there are quite a few of the OEMs that are around and giving us help where we want and whatever it is we may need.
Okay. Oh, and you mentioned tantalum there. I know it's in the fines, as you say, but also it's there. You want to put a tantalum circuit in. Are you thinking ahead already on this? Because I know there was interest from third parties and shareholders are keen to see that tantalum element being exploited. So when you're already thinking ahead and perhaps getting them implemented.
I mean, Mark, let me go back. In the original proposals, there was a tantalum circuit. There was a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding or whatever it might be on the part of the equipment supplier in terms of what kind of magnetic separation was required to remove both magnetics and paramagnetics. There was a circuit provided that would take these paramagnetics, including the tantalum, from the main mold discharge and take it to a separate tank and filter press and so on for bagging as and iron, ferrous, non-ferrous iron and various other magnetics and paramagnetics all together in one large bag, which would have given us something that would be very easy to reprocess. Now, that never worked. It didn't work because the magnetic separator provided was wrong. We are in contact with the supplier of these units with a view to getting that issue resolved and being able to hopefully gather the tantalum in a form that we can use and market. And there's strong interest in that.
Right. Okay. So that's on the cards. It's ongoing at the moment. Okay. Can I ask a little bit on the cash flow situation? I know we talked about the $800 is the mine gate cost, but a question that came in was, does this cover the administrative costs, which I think are referenced at around $400,000 per month, or is it the production cost? So if it covers everything, then that's fine. But if it's not, if it's only the production cost, how do you cover the general admin with the sales?
That's all in.
Okay.
It's all in average cost. There are a few conditions attached to it, things that we have to achieve.
Okay.
It has variables, but that's an average.
Okay.
That we're talking about over the first 12 to 15 odd months.
Okay.
It should drop significantly. And a lot of the reasons have public domain already, which relate to extensive open pit mining, for example, and the stripping ratio.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. That clears that question. When we talk about the pit, just briefly, I know the operations are back up and running. You're in the new area as well. But a question that came in from someone was, operations were paused, which I think was probably due to the holidays we talked about, but also about getting explosives to sites. But any kind of situations here that could stop the continuous running of the pit operations in the future? Not holidays, obviously, but just risk factors that could stop the ongoing pit operations.
Yeah, if we don't pay them.
Simple as that. Okay. No worries about supplying, getting explosive to sites and that kind of thing, or other. No. Okay.
No, I don't. I don't think that there are any of those issues still remain. You're back at site and working.
Okay. And just on the strip ratio, have you managed to reduce that at all?
The strip ratio will reduce itself with time. It's enormously high at the moment for a couple of reasons. One of them is that we need to mine away the outcrops within which the pegmatite is hosted. And that upper area tends to be quite weathered. So there's a lot of material in the upper area, and particularly with this thing being an outcrop as well, a lot more material than I had originally anticipated. So I think it was a combination. Part of it was the weathering, and part of it was just not appreciating how much material needed to be removed as waste. So that'll change, and it's already moving in that direction and changing.
Okay. Just a few
The overall forecast stripping ratio for life of mine remains 6-1.
Okay. Just a few, any of the business questions to finish here. Someone was asking, what happened to the bags on the pad that were contaminated? Have they been reprocessed, or will they be reprocessed, or are they junk?
That's 3 questions.
Yeah, sorry. It's 3 options.
But the first one is, no, they haven't been reprocessed.
Right.
The second is, could they be reprocessed? Yes, they may. It may be possible. We are looking at that. And thirdly, they haven't been thrown away as junk at this stage.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yes, I imagine there's a lot of bags sat there from under that shed there that's on site. I think a big thing here, George, is how the relationship with Canmax going. Of course, they are the customer here, and people, I think, want assurance that the customer is indeed happy and on board. I mean, people are asking, were they involved in stock dismissal? Are they still supportive overall? I think that's the main thing. So is there anything you can say on that, or potentially a joint statement from a representative of Canmax and yourself, RNS officially, just to allay any fears that people have that Canmax are indeed happy? Because that's the main thing, that the customer is happy with how things are going.
Well, let me make 2 points to start off there. The first is that I can't speak on behalf of Canmax.
No.
I think I need to make that be very clear that I can't. And the second is that my own personal view is that if I were the customer, I wouldn't be happy. I would want to know where my spodumene is. So from that perspective, I'm pretty sure that that's a question that Canmax is asking. And I know they ask us that question. So I think that let's rather frame the question and ask, is there an understanding? Is our communication with Canmax as good as we would like it to be? Are we regularly communicating with them? Are they fully informed of where we are? And the answer to all of those questions is yes. Right. So we do have an ongoing and close relationship in terms of the communication. And clearly, one of the senior officials from Tele Lithium is on our board. So amongst our directors, we are maintaining regular updates. We are having regular discussions. And I know that our director, who is part of Tele, is also communicating actively back to his people in Tele and then in Canmax.
Okay.
So I think that's the one issue. I remain acutely embarrassed that we haven't delivered yet. I remain acutely appreciative of the fact that Canmax, as far as I'm concerned, remain determined that they will get spodumene. That is my personal assessment of this, is that Canmax are in this for spodumene. That's what they want. That's what they contracted for. That's what they've advanced money for. And I don't see any change to that. So I don't think that it would be appropriate for me to ask Canmax to issue some kind of joint supportive statement. I don't think that they necessarily would in the form that is being sought. I think that their support is tacit and evident in many other ways. And it goes back to the amended agreement that they completed with us last year. It really is a very, very favorable agreement from Prem's perspective. And I'd urge anybody asking these questions to go and relook at the RNSs and look at the details of that agreement. So it's a very favorable agreement. And that Canmax to date has accepted the explanations and so on that we've provided, continues to accept the updates that we give, and to date has not gone anywhere other than say, give me spodumene. I think speaks volumes.
Okay.
I can't predict where they will be in the future, and I can't speak for them.
No, you can't. But you do appreciate, though, that would make people feel better if they could hear something from the customer side of things.
Well, I understand it, but we're Canmax and Tilly are a huge organization. You're talking about the biggest lithium hydroxide producer in the world.
Okay.
And we're talking about somebody who will provide them with 4,000 ton a month of spodumene concentrate, which is a drop in the ocean compared to what they need and where they are and the overall nature of their business. So I just don't think that I try and put too much pressure on them at all. I think I've just remained deeply appreciative of everything that they have done and continue to do.
Okay. Well, obviously, of course, the representative is on the board, aren't they, of Prem there? So they are very much ear to the ground on what's going on.
100%. They are completely ear to the ground from that perspective, and then from the independent and a separate communication that we have with Canmax Direct.
Okay. If I can ask, investors would like to know if there's any update. They're eager to know about Mutare, George, and when we can hear news on this front.
Matari is subject to an agreement that is in let me go back and say it this way. There is work being done to establish an agreement with the joint venture partner in Matari, and that agreement should lead to significant independent funding for Matari. That's an essential component of what Prem wants out of it. It's what the joint venture partner wants, and we think it's feasible and doable.
Okay, and we can wait to see an official RNS on that at some point, presumably.
As soon as there is a formal agreement, there will be an official RNS.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, George. I look forward to seeing some media later on, and hopefully the next one after that will be some banks being done. Are you comfortable that you can get everything going, get the product out, get a shipment away, hand sort if you need to temporarily in order to get that first shipment out the door? That's the big RNS that I think investors are waiting for. Well, I know they're waiting for it.
Mark, my overriding objective until very recently was to see this plant produce spodumene at grade. My next overriding objective at the moment is now to have sufficient to be able to go to Canmax and say, right, there is what we want to ship. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, George, for your time, as always, and let's speak again maybe in a week's time.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.